As it stands right now, Dune Awakening has 73 Steam achievements, but there's one that is so evil and notorious that if you scroll all the way down to the very, very bottom, only 0.1% have done it. So we're going to figure out how to do this quickly, efficiently, or at least to the best of abilities. You would think with this kind of completion percentage that it would be insanely difficult. But I'm sure after watching this, you'll realize this is pretty damn simple. And yes, you probably could argue that there's no one left to do it, but I'm still here. So if you are interested, let's take a look. And I hope you're hungry. It's just worth noting that this Master Assassin, which is currently ranked first, is apparently bugged. Drum roll. What we are going to be covering today is one that is achievable, that this video will help you smash out, and that is the Divided Messiah, where we have to cook 100 meals with Mohadeep, the rodent that traverses the great landscape of Dune Awakening. So let's look at how this actually works and what do we need to do to complete this. Well, first off, if you're not familiar with how it works, we can find Mohadeep within the Haga Basin and within the deep desert. For most players these days, you'll find the little guy running around when you spawn in to one of the Haga Basin spawn points that is on the desert floor or within the deep desert. We'll go into the best locations and some tips and strategies to do this quicker. But the most important thing to understand is that it says you need to cook 100 meals with Mohadeep, and you'd think you'd need to collect 100 Mohadeep. But in fact, cooking one will give you 5. So you can turn one little rodent into 5 meals. So let me just give you a quick example. So in order to complete the Divided Messiah, we have to craft the Malaj spice food, requiring 10 plant fiber, 2 spice sand, and of course the mouse corpse. And if we craft this, it actually will turn that 1 corpse into 5 spice food. So that actually means we only need 20 mouse corpses to get this achievement. I didn't know that. That makes it much easier and more simple to complete. I thought you had to do it 100 times, as I'd never actually cooked this food. Now, you all probably know this, but just in case, consuming spice food will help you get into your prescience state that allows you to access the third ability, reduces ability cooldowns, and increases damage dealt. It also grants immunity to poisonous effects. It's basically making you crazy overpowered and giving you a huge edge on your opponents if they're not in the same state. And when you're in this state, your eyes are glowing all crazy. You have this sort of purple lighting effect coming out of your eyes. And you'll notice Spice Melange has a spice gain of low. And if you've done any kind of PvP, you'll know how important it is to carry some kind of melange beverage or food to be able to get into that state. And you're going to see so much more of it with the new patch as all the prices are dropping drastically. This is what they look like in the new patch, noting $1,000 for melange spice liquor. Whereas currently, at the time of recording this video, you can see the price for the large spice liquor is 5,000. So you're going to be seeing a lot more people getting high, way more in Dune Awakening very soon. So it's important to understand how important this spice food can be. However, Malaj spice food is one of the weakest spice gains you can get from all the different ways of accessing your prescient state. So you can see that little bar down the bottom, it's empty now. We consume some Malaj spice food, the Mohadeep. You'll see we gain a little bit of that purple, but if we say consume some large spice liqueur, it completely fills our bar. Just a very quick rundown of the importance of spice food and spice drinks within Dune Awakening. Okay, so let's get down to the nuts and bolts. So now that we know we only need to get 20 of the mouse bodies, what are some of the best methods to do it? Well, the desert mouse will spawn pretty much anywhere on the open desert, in the deep desert or Haga Basin. Now, pinning down the actual mechanism and spawning of the mouse was very difficult. Spent about probably 6 hours testing this. It does seem to be on some kind of timer, but at this point, it's kind of anyone's guess. Feels like somewhere between 10 to 20 minutes, as you can just sort of sit in the desert anywhere, and eventually you will see the mouse pop up. Now, I used to see the mouse everywhere, way more common, and I tested spice fields, even the big giant ringworm spice fields where you always would see them all over the place. But at least in my testing for this video, it was nowhere to be seen at spice fields, or there was at least no real discernible difference. However, one thing I did notice at the spice fields, like these smaller ones, every now and then at these spice fields, I would get 2 mouse spawns within a relatively short period of time. I tried server jumping between the different zones within the deep desert. That didn't change the spawning or spawn time. It seems to be almost instanced to the player, as eventually after a period of time, they almost stopped popping up regularly at all. all, but it was so hit and miss. It was really hard to try pin this down. I didn't find any patterns, but I can tell you how I did it and some of the best methods to do it. Now, if you want to just do this in Hager Basin, my recommendation is go to any of these spawn points or quick travel points within the Hager Basin region. Wait anywhere from a minute to 5 minutes, and you will see a rodent. You can probably do this easily every 30 minutes, and you'll be guaranteed to see a rodent if you wait. If you're in the deep desert, my recommendation is finding some of the sharpest, pointiest dunes where you can sit on top and see both sides. This is where I found the best conditions, as you can see such a wide area, and generally I could just wait here and pop them off as they pop out. After a period of time, they would stop spawning, so then I would just jump over, fly quite a bit onto a similar sort of dune, and then just wait a little bit of time. The other good option is finding the smaller spice fields, as I had a lot more luck there than at the big giant ringworm spice fields. They did used to spawn there in large numbers, but I don't know if it was a bug or something's tweaked, but I no longer really see them at the big spice fields. But let me know in the comments where you're seeing Moa Deep and what you've noticed. But you can probably knock this achievement out very easily within 4 to 6 hours of just doing this. Now, I recommend if you're going to be doing this, you're probably better off doing this at the very start of the reset of the deep desert. So while you're waiting on sand, you could also be launching your probes to scan the area. Just wait a little bit of extra time, pay a bit more attention to what's around you. And if you land on these dunes and you're skipping between all the different regions to survey it, this is going to be the best possible time to be doing it, as you're killing 2 mouses with 1 stone. Land, use your survey, scan around, look for Moa Deep, and you'll see them pop up. Can take anywhere from 1 to 5 minutes, and in rare occasions, you'll even get 2 pop up within a quick amount of time. When it comes to spice fields, however, they don't spawn in the spice fields anymore. They always used to pop up in the spice fields, but now from what I've seen and noticed is that they always spawn quite a bit of a distance away from the spice field. So it is a little bit harder to pay attention and track them now, whereas they're always sort of around. Definitely something worth noting, as to me, the behaviors changed quite drastically. I never saw any notes on this changes. Maybe there were some patch notes somewhere, but it has definitely changed. It does seem like they made it a little bit harder to get this achievement, but ultimately you only need 20 and it doesn't take very long at all. So I highly recommend doing these sort of steps. For the gear, I highly recommend using your soft step boots, whichever version you've got. And one of the best weapons I reckon for something like this is a weapon with a scope. So the Dune Watcher, great weapon for this. And if they are very close, you could use something like the Dart for Every Man or the Shell Buster. The only other thing I highly recommend is having tons of water. If you're sitting out in the open PvP zone in the deep desert, I definitely recommend having heavy armor to help you sustain as many shots as rockets as possible, as well as having huge concussion mitigation. Executor chest piece is currently the best against rockets, but obviously that's much harder to get as it cycles quite irregularly. But you really don't need all that, just any kind of heavy armor, or you could go the still suit route if you know there's not too many people around, as you won't need as much water. For your perks, I would go desert conditioning, your sun tolerance under Better Jesuit, then just your usual suspects of whatever your build requires. And after all that, all it is really about is just spending a little bit of time focusing on this one objective. And it is relatively easy. The Hager Basin route, by far the safest, other than storms coming in when you spawn, or worms traveling under you as you spawn in, which can destroy your ornithopters. So there are a bit of risk there. For me personally, I would be going for the deep desert option. You do get the Moha Deep spawns in the PvE and PvP zone. For me, it felt like it was much easier to spawn Moa Deep in the PvP zones on open sand that wasn't too close to any islands, but that's just what I noticed. Let me know what you experienced if you've tried this. But what we can do to finish this all off is we're going to unlock this achievement. Now, I highly recommend if you're hunting Moa Deep, bring it back into Hager Basin, and this goes for all the achievements. Try not to split what you're doing of the achievement in Deep Desert and Hager Basin. Just try do it in Hager Basin for your best chance not to bug the achievement, because some of these achievements won't track in the Deep Desert. So if you complete some of it in the Deep Desert and some of it in Hager Basin, there is some bugs and issues. It won't give you the achievement. Very frustrating, but that's just the current state of this whole game in a way. But let's test that we can actually achieve this. We've got over 20 mouse corpses. I've already cooked a couple, so we're going to cook all of them. So let's do it. We're going to cook them all. We got 20 lined up. these are all going to get sent to another container. And here they are now slowly stacking up. So we can see 50, we need to get to 100. And here we are at 80. It'll be interesting to see if the achievement will happen live, or is it only going to trigger, like majority of the achievements is when we travel into one of the social areas and come back to Hager Basin or vice versa. So there we are, we've hit 100. So we've completed the cooking. That is the achievement done. It does not pop up, just like many of the other achievements, while you're in Hager Basin. So it may appear like you didn't get it, but we can see that it has triggered on Steam. So now we'll fly to one of the social hubs. Oh, and we can see the duper is at it. Guy's been here for hours just duping, duplicating. Well, no matter what I did after restarting the game, changing all the locations, I could not get the actual trigger of the pop-up within Steam. Probably doesn't matter to a lot of people, but just in case you're wondering, if it doesn't pop up, you do still get it. It isn't bugged, but it's just not displaying within the game. I do remember at random times you would get a whole heap of achievements triggered all at once. Don't know what the catalyst is for it, but yeah, just not very good system right now. But anyway, that's how you do it. That's how you get one of the most hated or least favorited achievements. Relatively easy, 4 to 6 hours. Those tips provided should really help speed up the process, but mainly just play the game every time you land in Hager Basin, on the desert spawns, or in deep desert and you're surveying. Spend a little extra time on the sand, watch for the mouse, pop them off, bing, bada, boom, you've got it. Hope you got something out of this. Thanks very much for watching. Peace.